Welcome to Module 1, Lesson 2, Creating Sacred Space. So let's go ahead and get started right away. So in order to develop, grow, and expand, you'll need to make room for it. And we're going to discover all the ways to do so. But in order to grow spiritually and to develop spiritually and to expand, you're going to need to make a little bit of room for that to take place. So you're here because you're being called in some way to either grow, to expand, heal, release, step up, express your gifts, etc. So there's many different reasons why you might be here. Perhaps you're feeling kind of like the opposite. Maybe you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling confused, or maybe you're just feeling this calling of discovering more about yourself and what spirit means and how you can use all of these gifts. So in order to do all of that, we're going to need to make some sacred space. So let's get into creating sacred space and what that means. So you can use rituals for reverence and establishing routines. So that's one way to create sacred space, is to create a ritual for yourself. And in doing so, really you are establishing a routine. So that's going to help you become more and more consistent with creating space for expanding your spiritual side. And then also it is establishing reverence. So that's just that means having more respect for what spirit means to you and tapping into your truth and what that all looks like for you. Another way to create sacred space is to release what is hindering you. So whether that is people, your environment, your job, your career, maybe perhaps negative thoughts, all of these different things that are getting in the way and they feel like a burden and they're not helping you and they're bringing you down and they're just taking up space that is precious to you that you could be using to help yourself and thus help others in all ways that you want to. That's also about creating sacred space for yourself, is letting go of what is hindering you. And then the next thing is to discover and rediscover your goals and your gifts. So the more that you create sacred space for yourself, the more that you're going to discover about you and who you're about and what you have to offer and all of these different little things that you might not have known existed before, which is really pretty cool, because the more that you make time for who you are and how you want to grow and become, the more that you're going to figure out, oh my gosh, I have these gifts I didn't even know I had. Or maybe you'll rediscover these gifts that you knew that you once had, and perhaps they were maybe put on the back burner for a little bit, or you've forgotten about them. And so all of these different benefits are going to start popping up. So creating sacred space is ultimately making room to connect with your truth. And you're going to hear me say that over and over again, your truth, because really that's my understanding of my own spirituality, is what it means to me, and thus whatever it means to you. And your truth is going to look completely different than someone else's truth. So you're making room for what you feel you need to do within to expand your soul and your spiritual development and your personal development, and what makes you feel good about yourself and your surroundings and who you are as a person and what you're all about. So that's what creating space is going to be able to do for you. All right. And also, creating space is not only internally, but it's externally as well. And it's all a healing journey. So a lot of times we think that if we just get rid of things physically, such as books, or we sell our home, or we get rid of old items that we don't really need anymore, there's still this internal process that needs to take place as well. So that is beliefs, thoughts, maybe perhaps even habits as well. So all of these different aspects, but it's all a healing journey essentially. And the more that you make room for yourself and for spirit and God and source and the universe and your angels and whatever you want to think of it and however you want to express it, the more that you're going to recognize that you are healing. Not that you need to heal, but really healing is allowing yourself to be at one with who you are and feel good about that and feel good about letting go and releasing and making room for what it is that you want. And again, it's not selfish. It is necessary for your own spiritual wellness. And that's what this is all about. So let's look at the two different terms separately. So let's look at what sacred means, and then let's look at what space means. So sacred is a power, being, or realm that's at the core of existence and known to have a transformative effect on lives and destinies. So these are just terms that I found and that resonated with me as well. But this is going to help you figure out what it really means to you. And then we're going to combine these words together and come up with our own definition of what sacred space means to you and how that's going to unravel itself and be expressed. Sacred also means connected with God or the gods, or dedicated to a spiritual purpose. So if you're dedicated to something that means something to you, that in itself is sacred. And you can call it God, you can call it goddess, you can call it source, creator, almighty, the collective consciousness. You don't have to call it God. You might feel like that's more religious, but to me, it feels more spiritual. So really it's, these are just different terms to kind of spark ideas for you as well. Sacred also means worthy of worship, and then something treated with great respect. So if you find that something is worthy of worship, you're going to take the time to feel that reverence for it. You're going to take the time to have that respect. And in order to respect something, you're going to be attentive to it, and you're going to nurture it, and you're going to watch it grow. So sacred is within you, and it is also externally as well. So let's look at what space means. So it's a continuous area which is free, available, or unoccupied. So when we think about all of our priorities and all of our necessities and all of our roles that we're playing and all of our tasks that we have to do, sometimes we feel like we don't have any time to focus on ourselves. We have no time to get back to that creative outlet that we have, that we once loved. We feel like we have no time to do this or to do that. But really, it is creating a space that is unoccupied. So you're going to find the time to do that, and we're going to work together to figure that out. Space is also the distance from other people or things that a person needs in order to remain comfortable. So this really hits true for me. I am quite an individual, independent person, and I am in a loving relationship as well. But I have found that if I don't create space for myself, then I feel like I'm going insane. I'm like, I need space for myself. I need to get away. I need to go hang out with my friends. I need to travel. I need to go on a solo road trip. I need to be alone by myself. So this is distance from either people or places that you're normally around. And some people are so used to being with someone else all of the time that they haven't given themselves enough of an opportunity or a chance to give themselves space. So you're going to discover a little bit how it feels to be alone, which is different than feeling lonely. So you're going to discover the difference there, but just feel it out and see what it's like for you. Even if you're one of those people that's really tied onto someone else, or whether that's your family, your significant other, your friends, if you have a hard time being alone, you're going to discover what it feels like in doing so. And we're all doing this together. So don't feel lonely, because knowing that we're all going to do this together. Space also is the opportunity to assert or experience one's identity or needs freely. So if you have not given yourself the opportunity to do this, then this is going to be a great opportunity for you. You are essentially going to give yourself the time and the space in order to figure out who you are, especially if you're a mother or you're a caretaker or you're in a career where you are solely focused on other people, whether that's a nurse or a teacher, whatever it is, depending on your own circumstances. Now is going to be the time for you to focus more on who you are and discovering what you're all about and figuring out what is your identity. And maybe you already make time to do all of this, but you're going to find different ways of making that sacred space for yourself. So let's look at it together. I'm going to read this together, so read along with me. This is a definition that I came up for my own preference, and you're going to find that you may or may not agree, and you're going to actually create your own definition of sacred space. So creating and consistently making time and room to connect with God, Spirit, the universe, and my higher self, and ultimately have the freedom to be and express myself, thus offering the best version of myself and in all ways for the highest good. So that was quite wordy. But if you break it down, it is essentially saying the way that I feel sacred space to me is I'm connecting and I'm making room and time for this. I'm going to make room. So even if I feel like I don't have time, I'm going to make the time, and I'm going to connect with this higher power of mine and of the universe. And then what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to not only receive the love and the support and the presence of spirit, but also it's going to allow me to discover more about myself, and in ways such as I'm going to be creative, I'm going to draw, I'm going to write, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to figure out what this all means, and I'm going to get insight and messages along the way. So I want you to come up with your own definition of what sacred space means to you. And I really want you to think about it. Even if you don't have a big, lengthy definition of it, perhaps you like that it's just plain and empty and there's nothing there and there's no stress and there's no overwhelm. It's just a blank slate. It's a blank canvas. It is an empty home. It is opening the windows and freeing out the energy. So I want you to think about what it means to you and how that's going to start looking like in your own life when you start to create sacred space within yourself and your surroundings as well. So I'm going to give you some ideas of ways to create sacred space. So let's hop right in. So change, even if it's scary, you must make changes. We get so stuck in our ways, don't we? And I am one to say that as well. But in order to grow and to find more about who you are and your identity and what you're made of and what you can handle, and in order to reach your goals and your aspirations and to go after what it is that you truly want, you're going to have to change, whether that is changing your own habits or changing your situation or your circumstances or getting rid of something or applying for something or moving, whatever it is, you got to change something, even if it's scary. And it's probably most likely going to be scary. But this is your higher self. This is your spirit guide saying, okay, it is time for you to change. You wouldn't be here in this course now if you didn't need to change something for the highest good. All right. So another idea for creating space is get rid of negative, dense, dingy energy. So this is really good for springtime, but it doesn't matter. I actually do this in fall time too. I kind of do this twice a year where all the things in my house that feel really dense, I give away. I either give away or I donate or I sell, whatever it is, but I'm getting rid of the things. And this could be anything. This could be physical objects. Perhaps you have really negative thoughts that you need to get rid of. Maybe you have someone in your life that's really putting you down. They're not talking nicely to you. Depending on what it is, it might be a little harder to get rid of, or it might be a little easier to get rid of. But in order to create space for what it is that you want and to live the life that you truly want and to connect with your core, you're going to have to get rid of some stuff, even if it's uncomfortable. Then get rid of materialistic items. So I've already kind of briefly mentioned this before, but a really good book, if you have not seen it or if you don't have it already, I believe her name is Marie Kondo, and I think the title is called The Joy of Tidying Up, something along those lines. But she is really, really good about taking you step by step by step of getting rid of materialistic items that just no longer serve you. They're old and outdated. You don't use them. Maybe you don't appreciate them anymore. Maybe it was an old gift that you don't really care about and you've just had a hard time getting rid of. So getting rid of the materialistic things in your life is going to be not only room within, and it's going to feel good to clear the air, but physically you're going to have more space around you. Let go of unwanted thoughts and feelings. Now, this is probably going to be easier said than done, but we are consistently thinking. Our brains never really shut off, and that can drive us nuts, right? But the more that you're aware of your thoughts and your feelings, the more that you can shift them. And this does take practice, but it's just truly becoming aware of what it is that you're thinking. And if you're, let's say, for example, you're constantly thinking, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm so lazy, or oh, I'm feeling so anxious, or oh, I can't figure things out on my own, or oh, my kids are driving me insane, whatever it is. If you truly want to change, you will change by just being more aware of your thoughts and how you're feeling within. Because as soon as you're aware, you can change it. If you're unaware, then it's not so easy to change. But now that I told you that, you'll become more aware. And it's just simply recognizing it and then shifting it. You don't have to be hard on yourself. Just say, okay, and look at it as a non-judgmental way and say, okay, I need to shift that thought. And then just simply shift it and move on. Another way of creating sacred space is let go of old or outdated beliefs. We touched on this before. But depending on what you really feel within, is it still helping you? Is this belief within you helping you? But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just an old belief that no longer even it really does anything for you besides hold you back. Maybe you feel like you're too old, or you feel like you're too young, or you feel like you don't have enough education, or you feel like you can't do it because you don't have enough experience, or you believe you don't have enough money, or you believe you have to rely on someone. Whatever this belief is it really helping you? And if it's not, then get rid of it, chuck it out, find a new belief, just switch it. Another one is release by talking. This is really helpful, and I have personal experience with this. I didn't talk to a therapist or a counselor, whatever you want to call it, for many, many years. In high school and college, I was quite depressed because of what was going on with my family and having to deal with that. And I was depressed. And I remember my doctor at the time, she said, do you think that you might be really so stressed that you feel suicidal? And just her asking me that question really like sparked all of these different thoughts in my mind. And it felt so caring that she was asking. And I thought to myself, I never thought about it. I never thought to talk to anyone about this. And just recently in my life, many, many years after that happened, I finally spoke to a therapist, and she didn't do the healing for me, but she asked questions and she just allowed me to talk. And just by getting the energy and the thoughts out of me, instead of me trying to figure them out in my own brain and in my own heart, I was allowed to express what I was feeling in. And by talking about it, just helped create so much space within me, because you are energetically, you are getting rid of things by talking about them. Otherwise, they're just going to remain really, really heavy on your heart. And just expressing and talking is going to be so helpful. And then another way is to express your real, raw, ruthless emotions, those emotions that just keep coming back. Same difference here is just being real about what it is that you're feeling and what it is that you are holding in your heart, and just express them. So you can express them in different ways. You can draw, you can write, you can run, you can do all these different things that allows you to express them, and depending on what you prefer to do. And you'll see that the more that you express your feelings in however way you want to, the more that you will feel like there's space opening up. Whether you end up crying hysterically or you end up laughing hysterically, you are letting out what has been in you for so long. And it doesn't necessarily have to be negative things. It could be good things too. Maybe you've never told someone about someone in your family that you really appreciate. Maybe you're not telling them how much you appreciate them. So think about that and how you can express your emotions a little bit more. Let's look at the physical part. Move, walk, run, chant, scream, stretch, dance, punch, laugh. All of these things, again, are also physically, but also verbally. So all these things need to come out. This is also creating sacred space, because what's happening is internally, a lot of times we hold stress in our shoulders and our back and our chest and our body and our hips especially. And that's where we energetically, especially as women, hold all of this energy within us. And by giving yourself the opportunity to physically move or to verbally talk or to scream or to punch, you know, in a healthy way, punch a punching bag. These are ways of truly getting out dense energy that's been bottled up inside of you. And just by moving, you're going to then create space. You're allowing it to flow out of you. So that's another way to create sacred space. You're also going to want to create a room or area specifically for creating and expressing. So I want you to start getting creative, however that looks. You don't have to feel like you're an artist. I want you to just create or express or connect. Think of it any of those ways. But I feel like it's very helpful for me, at least, and I really want you to do this as well, is to create a room or an area. It can be inside or outside, but someplace that is solely yours, not your kids, not your animals, not your other half, not your friends, not the families. Even if it's like in your closet, or even if you have to like put it in a bag, like you have all of your little sacred things or your books or your candles and you put it in a bag and you take it to the park. If you have to do that, depending on your circumstances, whatever it is, create a room or space. And then I want you to hone in on your own thoughts and your own feelings and express them. However, use different mediums and different formats. And you can use cards, you can use paint, you can use coloring, you can use, coloring books, you can use crayons, you can use stencils, you can sew, you can do all these different things, but create however you want to create, and create something, anything. Invite your higher self in, and I spelled that correctly, INN. And I want you to think about really tapping into your higher self and inviting your higher self in as though it was some luxurious or glamorous or cozy, comfy, cottagey, however you want to think of it. I want you to think about an inn that you would enjoy going to, some space that you would love to travel to, some inn that you would love to go to and express yourself. Do you want to be in front of a cozy fireplace? Do you want to be on a beach? Do you want to be in a gorgeous hotel in New York? Wherever it is, I want you to start thinking of that space and envisioning it and visualizing it, and visualizing yourself there and inviting your higher self to come in closer to be in that area. By doing so, you're not only creating room for things to manifest, but you're also creating a sense of ease and peace within yourself and inspiration, because you're going to be ultimately creating all of this externally as well. Make time for you. Again, depending on if you're a mom, what your role is, maybe you do have a lot of time for yourself. There's been a point in my life where I felt like I had a lot of time for myself. But make time for yourself. And I say make time because we all have the same amount of time in the world as humans. We all have the same 24 hours, and that's just a way of thinking about it. But when you make time for yourself, you're setting it up as a priority, and whether you do this daily or weekly, but I would suggest doing it and setting up a schedule where it's consistent and more of a routine. Remember, going back to that ritual, you're going to set up a ritual where it's more of a routine for yourself, and you're going to feel that reverence and respect for connecting with your higher self. Okay, that was a lot. So being in your comfort zone is not comfortable. Trust me. We get so comfortable that we're really not stretching ourselves. And in order to grow and expand, you are going to have to get out of your comfort zone, and it's not going to be comfortable. But eventually, it will get more and more comfortable. And then ultimately, you're going to create a whole life right before your very own eyes that is everything that you've ever wanted, because you reached outside of your comfort zone, and it's going to be worth it. So let's look at the culprit of what might be frustrating or what might be holding you back. So we know that we need space when we're feeling uptight or overwhelmed or overworked or unacknowledged or unappreciated. So anytime you're starting to feel those feelings within, that's a good sign that your higher self is saying, okay, Tabitha, I need to get out. I need to create a space. I need to make time for myself. So that's when you know you need to make space, is when you're starting to feel these different feelings that are uncomfortable and they're stressing you out and they're creating a sense of burden. So let's look at some sources of frustration. So again, old and outdated beliefs. I'll keep saying that. People might be a source of frustration, a certain person, relationships, thought patterns, living environment, family members, your home, unhealthy habits, unflattering clothes, dense energy, addictions, ignoring your own wants and wishes, and playing a certain role. So these are all possible sources of frustration. So think about what it is that might be making you feel a little frustrated. I use frustration, but you can think of it as stressed or anxiety ridden, or you feel burdened, or you feel stuck. So what is the source of it? Ultimately, we're all responsible for our own feelings. So this isn't about blaming. So hear me out. I don't want you to blame any of these sources, but it's good to help you recognize what it is, the source or sources of frustration. So that way you can start changing it and altering it and ultimately creating what it is that you want in life. And so feeling frustrated is spirit and your higher self speaking directly to you. It is God or goddess or source saying, look, you need to change. There's something in your life that is not helping you anymore. It's sort of hindering you a little bit. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And so it does keep you moving along, but that doesn't mean you have to stay in that situation or that circumstance or that home or that relationship or that job. You don't have to stay there. Instead, you can keep moving on, but to know that, hey, that happened so I can learn and to grow from it. But anytime you're feeling frustrated, that's Spirit and God saying, hey, all right, we need to make some changes. But let's look at the good side too. So when you're starting to feel inspired or in spirit, that's also you directly connecting with your higher self and your intuition. And that's you doing what you want to do. This is how God or spirit wants you to feel. We are not supposed to feel like we're suffering all of the time. I do feel like suffering is part of being a human, and feeling sad and feeling unattractive or feeling like we're lacking confidence. These are all feelings that are normal as human beings, but I feel like we're not supposed to be remaining in that feeling. And instead, we want to feel inspired. So find ways to get inspired or in spirit, and then also feeling intuitive as well, or into it is what I like to say. So when you're working with spirit and your higher self and you're doing what your soul wants you to do, you're going to start feeling inspired and more intuitive. And that's when you know that you're on the right path. That's when you are creating space for yourself, for the sacredness that relies in you and lies in you. So making space is 100% necessary to grow and expand spiritually. There's no way around it. So you got to figure out, what is it I need to get rid of in order to make space for myself and to grow spiritually. And then it's also connecting more intimately with your true nature and living your soul purpose. So when you're creating space, you are living your soul purpose. We all ask ourselves at some point or another, what is my soul purpose? Well, the more that you make room for you to discover it, the more that you're going to find out what it is. So we'll look more into that as well. The benefits of creating sacred space. So it allows yourself to be the best version of yourself, the you that keeps pushing forward despite your fears. So when you create space for yourself, it's going to feel a little scary to get out of your comfort zone, but you are opening up to being the fullest and best version of yourself, even if you're feeling a little fearful. And then it's also that you'll start to recognize that Spirit's loving power and support is within you. And this is going to give you the strength to continue on your beautiful path. So the more that you make time for Spirit and yourself and your higher self, the more that you're going to feel the strength within you to just keep pushing forward. And then by making space, you're giving Spirit permission to work closely with you, which is really essential in understanding all of this, because if we are cut off from our innate truth with what we feel inside of us, and if we're cut off from this higher beautiful energy that is trying to guide us, if we're not listening to the guidance, if we're not paying attention to it, if we're not open to it, then we're not going to be able to see the signs. We're not going to be able to pay attention to them and take action upon them. So the more that you make space for yourself, essentially, the more you're going to be able to see the signs and the synchronicities, and you're going to be able to live a life that's much easier than what it might feel like right now. So, how will you make space? So in your PDF, you're going to have an option and an opportunity to look further into this and how you will personally make space for your own sacred self within. So get to it, and not only write it down on paper and not only think about it, but I want you to, but for you yourself, do this for yourself. You want to, I know that you want to, or else you wouldn't be here. Make space for yourself externally as well. So don't only get it out on paper, but to think about how you can create space externally in your surroundings. Do you need to get rid of something? Do you need to move something? Do you need to rearrange something? How will you do it? And how does that look to you? So I'm excited for you to share that with me and to keep moving forward and making sacred space for yourself. I'll see you in the next lesson.